Hi, dear friends. Have you ever forgotten something really important? My guess is you have. Everyone has. In my case, I could provide a whole list of important things that simply slipped off the radar screen of my mind and slipped into the forgotten oblivion. As a student, I sometimes stared at a test question knowing I had read that, but I simply couldn't remember the answer. As a pastor, there were a few times that I made an appointment and forgot. That's not cool. Have you ever forgotten to pay a bill? I have. Fortunately, not often, but I've forgotten. And this, have you ever gone to the grocery store and forgotten something that you had gone there to buy? Yes, forgetting is a human problem. So occasionally, we need to be reminded of what we have learned in the past, even important things. And of all the lessons we have ever learned, in my estimation, none is more important than these words of Jesus found in Matthew 7:12. From the J.B. Phillips translation of the New Testament, this is how it reads. Treat other people exactly as you would like to be treated by them. This is the essence of all true religion. This is so elemental that it has been called the Golden Rule. It should not surprise us that in almost every world religion, some form of the Golden Rule can be found in their sacred writings. Treating others the way we want to be treated is basic to healthy human interaction. But sadly, it is not always the way we human beings behave. In fact, it may not be the way we human beings generally behave. In 1983, some clay tablets containing cuneiform writing dating from about 1500 BC were discovered in Hattusa, the ancient Hittite capital in present-day Turkey. The tablets contain a poem called The Song of Liberation. It seems that the inhabitants of a city called Igingilish have been enslaved by the city of Ebla. In this poem, the gods of Ebla are demanding that they release their slaves. But the citizens of Ebla are struggling with this demand and ultimately decide to keep their slaves and defy their gods. In reporting on this, in the Biblical Archaeological Society last week, Mark Dospel wrote, "Human history is sadly full of stories of people struggling for freedom and justice in opposition to other people's desire for dominance and exploitation. And we can be certain that the concepts of subjugation and liberation have been with the human race since even before the first written records can inform us about them." All this is to say that in spite of our religious beliefs, we often treat other people badly. It is not the noble voices of our better angels that guide us, but the twisted naggings of our inner demons that cause us to act out of spite or jealousy or anger or envy. These inner demons try to convince us that we are justified in treating someone or some group differently because they deserve it, or They have brought it on themselves. But in giving this golden rule, Jesus did not equivocate. He did not provide exceptions. He did not offer extenuations. It has been true throughout human history that one person or group of people will try to elevate themselves by subjugating others. At its heart, this has nothing to do with our race, our educational background, the part of the world we're from, or even our religion. It is a human nature problem. In our own country, this human nature problem became racial as African slaves were easy to identify by the color of their skin, and the inner demons set to work attempting to justify their slavery. It was said of them, they are better off here as slaves than they were in Africa, or they love their masters and are devoted to them because they are treated well. Or the most demonic rationalization of all, they are not like us. God marked them and intended that they should be slaves. It's hard to believe that these things were ever said, but they were. And in a grossly convoluted way of thinking, good people actually accepted these rationalizations as truth, and slavery became the accepted norm, at least in the South. Lincoln wondered aloud, if slaves were treated so well and were so content, why is it no slave owner is willing to trade places with them? Listen again to what God says. However you want others to treat you, that's how you should treat them. I have never been a police officer. I don't know what it's like to know that every time you answer a call, you are potentially putting your life on the line. I have never had to chase down a lawbreaker who is fighting to get away. I've never had the adrenaline pumping as I tried to subdue a criminal. I don't know what it's like to deal with the criminal element in society so long that it begins to affect how you see everyone. We expect a lot from our law enforcement officers. But among the things we expect is decency. Treating others the way they would want to be treated if the shoe were on the other foot. We expect justice from those who enforce our laws. That's not expecting too much. Nor is it expecting too much from those who believe Jesus' words are the command of God, that we should expect and demand justice for ourselves and for every other person, whether they are enforcing our laws or even if they are breaking our laws. Justice acknowledges and administers the practical application of the golden rule in society. It does not ask if someone has earned his rights or deserves to be treated well. Instead, it focuses on the fact that as human beings created in the image of God, we all have rights. These rights are not given by the state or awarded by the government. They are given to us by God and acknowledged by the government. That's why, of all people, Christians especially, must demand that the rights given to every human being by God must be protected. So, speaking of practical application, let's do this. Within our own homes, let's treat others the way we want to be treated. But here is where practicality gets murky. A teenager wants to go to a party. The parent is aware of the dangers involved. The teen says, "You should treat me the way you would want to be treated. If you were me, you would want to go to this party, so you should let me." This is an example of the convoluted thinking I mentioned earlier. The parent, seeing the greater issues of safety and potential dangers, says, "If I were you, I would want you to look out for my welfare and to protect me even from my own bad choices." Treating others the way we would want to be treated is not always as easy as it might seem. But with practice, I believe we can manage it and even master it. As I close, let me remind you that next Sunday, June 14th, 2020, we will begin an experiment with gathering, kind of. We will begin a drive-in service. The church has purchased an FM transmitter which will broadcast the service to your car radio on the 87.7 frequency. The only people in the sanctuary will be those engaged in leading the service. So please don't come expecting to sit in the sanctuary. We will evaluate this plan from time to time as the risks of gathering together lessen. Until then, stay faithful, stay safe, and, if you can, stay sane. God bless us all, and treat others the way you want to be treated.